In this video I'm going to be installing this XRC Ignition cover onto my 2017 KTM 250XC. This is the XRC Ignition cover I'm going to be installing today. The main advantages over the stock cover are, if I flip it over, you can see quite easily. So this is a stock cover. If you measure the wall thicknesses, particularly in this area, this measures about 6.1 millimeters, and the same area on the stock cover is just under 3 millimeters, about 2.9 millimeters. So it's about double the thickness there, and that is at the bottom where it's more likely to hit rocks, etc. So far beefier construction, a lot less likely to get damaged. Also, the other big advantage is the Bendix bush area is reinforced, and this stock cover actually came out of Phil's 300, and this one was cracked, so the bush was able to move a lot and basically stop the starter working. And in the XRC cover, it's been reinforced and very unlikely to become damaged. It also comes pre-installed with a bronze bush, which is great. And to install the ignition cover, I'm going to be using a new gasket. This is a KTM one, and I'll put the part number in the description of the video. And I'm also going to be installing a new XRC bronze bush into the engine case. And I'm going to be modifying that slightly. I'll talk about that later. Before you start the install, I recommend washing the bike. You obviously don't want any dirt dropping into the engine cases. And I've already removed my TM Design skid plate, and the next step is to remove the gear shift pedal. Now you're ready to remove the stock cover, and I highly recommend making a simple template like this because the bolts are all different lengths and it's very difficult to remember which bolt goes where. If you have a template, when you take the bolts out, put them into the template, and it makes it very easy when you put them back. And when loosening and tightening engine covers, I always use a crisscross pattern, and it minimizes the chance of damaging the cover. And once you've partially loosened all of the bolts, you can fully remove them. Okay, I've removed all the bolts, so the cover should just lift off now. Okay. And on the gaskets, note that there's two dowels, so there's one here and one here. Be very careful not to lose those. So this one's come off with the gasket, and that one stayed in the engine. So as I say, just be careful that you don't lose them. I'm going to put this one back into the engine case, and I'm just going to take the Bendix out and put that aside. And next I'm going to take the starter coil off, because that needs to go onto the new ignition cover. And if you look carefully, you'll probably see down here I applied some epoxy to the standard case to hold the wiring out of the way of the flywheel so it doesn't rub on the flywheel. So I'm going to have to carefully pry that off the cover. And if you're doing this on a TPI bike, you'll notice that the ignition coils are a little bigger, and it uses a 3-bolt mounting system. But other than that, it's just exactly the same. And there's a little clip here to hold the rubber wiring grommet in place. And next I'm going to carefully pry off the wiring from the case. And then you can just remove it from the cover. Next I'm going to remove the stock Bendix bush, which is located here. And to do that I'm going to use a blind bearing puller. And the tool I have is 2 pieces. So this part inserts into the bush, and this part goes inside this tool, and you screw it down and it splays these jaws apart. So first insert this part of the tool into the bush and then screw that down. And it should come out fairly easily, so it doesn't need to be super tight. And I'm going to use a slide hammer to pull the bush out. And that pulled the bush out very easily. Okay, so I'm getting ready to install the XRC bronze bush into the engine case. And I'm just doing a test fit to see how well it fits in the engine case. And I can tell it won't easily push in by hand, which is a good sign. It means the engine case hasn't worn. And you should note that there's a flat on the XRC Bendix bushes. And it's recommended that you install the flat up. The idea being that if you use oil to lubricate the flywheel, the starter motor gear and the Bendix gears, a small amount of oil will be flung about and collect on the flat, and then there's a slit here, and the oil will drip down onto the Bendix shaft, lubricating the inner surfaces of the bush. So I think that's a good idea to do that. One issue is that if you need to change the starter motor at some time, there's a bush around the starter motor which needs to be removed. So you remove this bolt and then use a puller tool to pull the bush out. You should note that the Bendix bush slightly overlaps the starter motor bush, so that if you need to replace the starter motor, you actually have to remove this bush. What I'm going to do is modify the XRC bush by making a second flat in this area, so that if in the future I need to change the starter motor, I won't need to remove the bronze bush. So I'm going to do that now and then fit it. And before you fit the new bush, it's a good idea to clean out any dirt and grease from the bush housing. Okay, so I'm getting ready to install the bush, and I'm going to use some Loctite 648, which is a retaining compound, and I'm just going to apply a small amount to the outside of the bush, and this will ensure that it holds in place. Okay, so I need to get the orientation correct, so I'm making sure that the flat with the slit is at the top. And that looks good, so I'm going to hammer it in fully now. And that looks good. You can see the flat I made on the bottom, which now clears the starter bush nicely, and the XRC made flat on the top with the slit. Okay, I'm now ready to install the Bendix, and before I do that, I'm going to lube it up with some oil. I have a lightweight spray oil. XRC recommends Motrex 2000, which unfortunately isn't imported into Japan, so I found this lightweight oil. It's intended for lubricating gears and bearings, so I think this is good. Don't use a grease or anything that goes tacky, because that can create problems with the Bendix. So a lightweight oil is good. So I'm going to lubricate all the gears and the shaft, and also the bush and the starter motor. And I'm going to go around on the flywheel as well and lube that up. And you should do a regular maintenance check of the starter system and re-lube everything then. In the KTM manual, they actually recommend every 40 hours, so that's probably a good time frame. And to get the Bendix back in, you just have to jiggle it around a little bit, but it will go back in. Just be patient, and you can see there it went in fairly easily. And then I'm going to apply some lube to the shaft here as well. Okay, I'm now ready to install my new gasket. Before you do that, make sure the engine case is free of debris, nice and clean. Okay, next I'm going to install the starter and the cover. And you just need to be careful with the wiring, so don't twist it, make sure it's lined up correctly. And there's a clip that goes on top of the wiring to hold it in place. And this time I'm not going to apply any new epoxy. I applied it before, and it's made the cover over the wiring hard, so it holds it in place. So I think it would be fine like that. You just want to make sure it doesn't touch the flywheel, so I think that's going to be fine. And for the starter bolts, I'm going to apply some Loctite 243. And then torque both the bolts to 10 Newton meters. And then I'm going to apply some lube to the cover bush. And now I'm ready to install the cover. So make sure the gasket stays in place. And it popped on very easily. And now I'm ready to install the cover bolts. So I'm taking them out of the template, making sure I put them in the right place. This template can save a lot of time. Okay, now I'm ready to torque the cover bolts, and they need to be torqued to 10 Newton meters. And I'm going to use a crisscross pattern. And the last step is to reinstall the gear shift lever, so make sure you put it in the correct position. And the gear shift lever can come loose if you don't use the correct fastener and washers, and also some Loctite 243. So be sure to apply some of that. And the last step is to torque the gear shift lever to 14 Newton meters. And that's the install complete. I think it looks great. I'm going to check the starter motor works okay before I put the skid plate back on. The starter's working great, so I'm really happy with this.